We are introduced to Mimori Toka, the kid who has less personality as a bag of rocks. He has accustomed himself to a life of isolation due to his traumatic upbringing and abusive parents, so now he impulsively tries to fade into the background and avoid trouble. Right now, the class president, Sogu, is getting bullied by the class jerk, Oyamada, who has stolen her book for no reason. And no one really cares enough to help her, especially not the teacher who clearly hates his job. Since no one is stepping up to save Sogo, Mimori decides to take action for once and gets up from his seat to ask Oyamada to return her book. Oyamada is surprised that a nobody like Mimori would dare stand up to him. However, just as he is about to start bullying Mimori as well, the class Chad Takutu speaks up and tells Oyamada to quiet down. Oyamada tries to appeal to Takutu and says he wants to teach Mimori his place as a background character, but Takutu doesn't intend to let that happen. To be clear, he doesn't care about Mimori at all, or Sogo for that matter. He just doesn't want Oyamada to cause any more trouble because it's annoying to listen to. Oyamada doesn't like it, but since Takutu is the alpha, he has no choice but to listen to him and settle down. Oyamada returns Sobu's book and sits back down. But since he needs to keep himself entertained, he quietly starts bullying the kid across from him, Yasu. The teacher finally speaks up and tells Oyamada to quit messing with Yasu. He doesn't really care, but if Oyamada bullies Yasu so much that he ends up jumping off a bridge, then he won't get his yearly bonus. But if Yasu wants to jump off a bridge after his bonus, then the teacher has no problem with it as long as he does a flip. Things get quiet on the bus after that, but then all the students are suddenly transported into a room where they are greeted by the goddess Vicious. She explains that her kingdom, Alien, summons brave warriors to have them fight the evil demon emperor every time he appears. The last time the demon emperor showed up was 200 years ago, and he was thankfully defeated by the valiant efforts of the previous heroes. However, the great emperor has been revived once more, so Alien has summoned the students to be the next heroes of the kingdom of Alien. The students are still greatly confused by everything that has happened so far, so they think this entire thing is either a prank or maybe they all died in a bus crash. The teacher gets everyone's attention and tells them that he's not sure what's going on either, but for now, they should all just listen to Vicious. Vicious thanks him, thinking he understands what she has been saying, but in reality, he is just blinded by Booba. Perverted teacher aside, Mimori takes a moment to assess the situation. This building doesn't seem like anything he has ever seen before. There's a goddess standing in front of him, and he doesn't feel like he's in a dream, so there's only one conclusion to be made. They have actually been summoned to another world. Takundo clarifies that the goddess wants them to defeat this so-called demon emperor, but he wants to know what happens if they refuse to cooperate. The goddess tells them that she unfortunately does not have the power to send them home if they don't want to become Alien's heroes, but there is still a way for them to go back to Earth. It involves a reverse summoning ritual which requires an evil element, and the only way to acquire this evil element is to get it from the heart of the demon emperor, or to absorb the element as it is released upon the death of the demon emperor. Oyamada still doesn't see a reason why any of them should put their lives on the line to fight this demon emperor when Vicious essentially kidnapped them. So Vicious does the only thing she can and begs them to reconsider being this world's saviors. Sobu speaks up to introduces herself as the class president, and even if Vicious refers to them as saviors, they are still just high school students, so they wouldn't be of much use if they were sent into war. Vicious tells her that there's no need to worry about that since they have been bestowed with powers that no other human being in this world has. They all find this hard to believe, so Vicious decides to give them a little demonstration to prove that special abilities truly exist. She calls for a prisoner to be brought out, and then a demonic beast which proceeds to eat the prisoner. And after the demon has mercilessly mauled the prisoner, Vicious casts a fireball to incinerate it. That should have sufficiently traumatized the students so they can accept that they are in a new world. And now that they've come to believe what she has been saying, Vicious directs their attention to a crystal ball which will be used to evaluate their abilities. One by one, the students step up to have their abilities evaluated, and they all seem to have decent aptitude. Notably, when Oyamada goes up to the crystal ball, it glows a brilliant red color, meaning he is incredibly powerful by this world's standards. Next up is Takuto, and when he puts his hand on the crystal, it completely shatters. Everyone is shocked and confused by what's just happened, so the goddess explains this means Takuto is S rank. S rank is the top of the line when it comes to power and leaves above everyone else, so having a single S rank hero is already really lucky. But as the aptitude test continues, it is revealed that Sogu is also S rank as she shatters the backup orb they brought in. And it doesn't end there either, as there is a third S rank hero who shatters the second backup orb in storage. Vicious is in disbelief at how wonderful the hero roster is turning out to be, so she asks who the next person is going to be. And that person turns out to be Mimori. He puts his hand on the crystal, and it begins to glow purple. But the light emanating from the orb is much weaker than it was with the others, so he asks Vicious what his rank is. However, she completely ignores him and asks for the next person to come up. Mimori is used to getting ignored, so he just rolls with it and moves on. But then he notices that the last person to be examined was Yusa, and the orb shows a dark mass in the center, which means he is the dark hero of the group. And as far as their records show, the dark hero is often far more powerful than any other heroes in the group. So essentially, everyone needs to be careful because the quiet kid just got his gun. After that, the goddess gave everyone instructions on how to check their statuses, and when Mimori takes a look at his stats, he realizes that his stats kinda suck. The goddess created this window so that the heroes could get accurate information about their abilities wherever they want, so Mimori looks a little closer and notices something called an inherent skill. Inherent skills are skills that are unique to any given hero, and they can typically be used immediately, but some may need to be awakened at a higher level. But that's enough explanations for now, as Vicious tells everyone that they will now be performing a very necessary ritual for their success. She calls Mimori forward and explains that he is E rank, and as the record books show, the lowest ranked heroes always did nothing but slow down the more powerful ones, therefore she's making the executive decision to dispose of him. However, killing a hero just for being weak would be too morally ambiguous for her, so she decided to give Mimori a chance to earn his life back. Instead of outright killing him, she will send him to some ruins, and if he manages to survive, then he can live as he pleases in the world. Mimori asks if these ruins are dangerous, and Vicious answers that of course the ruins are dangerous, it wouldn't be much of an execution grounds if it were safe. Mimori tries to talk his way out of this and says he has an inherent skill of abnormal status endowment, so that must be useful to the team somehow, but to his dismay the goddess tells him that abnormal status spells and skills in this world are totally useless, since they almost never actually work as intended, and even when they do work, they aren't very useful anyway. Mimori tries to appeal to the goddess's morality and says she can't just dispose of him when she is the one who summoned him here without his consent, but her name is literally Vicious, so I don't think she cares. As Mimori is trying to come to terms with his fate, Yasu touches his shoulder, and Mimori thinks Yasu is going to stand up for him since he used to help him out back when he was getting bullied on Earth. However, now that he has power, Yasu has turned into just as much of a jerk as the others, so he mocks Mimori for being weak and condemns him to his terrible fate. By now, Mimori has realized that no one cares about him being disposed of here, and all the other students just want him gone. So he stands to accept his fate as Vicious throws him a magic bag as a consolation gift. However, there's at least one person there who knows this isn't right, as Sobu steps up and asks Vicious to reconsider the disposal of Mimori. However, Vicious is dead set on disposing of Mimori, so she just knocks Sogu out so she can't complain about it. Mimori can't stand the cruelty and mockery any longer, so he attempts to use his abnormal status effect skill to paralyze the goddess, but unfortunately, as a goddess she always has an anti-abnormal status shield which she hasn't used since the Heian era. She mocks Mimori for failing his attack, and without further delay she wants everyone to witness as this loser is teleported to his doom. Just then, Takudu fires off a blast which leaves a huge hole in the wall, but as the goddess looks over to him, he clarifies that he isn't trying to save Mimori or anything. He just wanted to test out his powers and didn't realize it would do that much damage. Some of Mimori's classmates derive joy in watching him be disposed of, while others remain indifferent, and the one person who supported him was knocked out, so as he is about to be teleported, Mimori gives up on his background character act and gives Vicious the middle finger, vowing to make her regret this someday. Mimori wakes up in the abandoned ruins and tries to open his status screen, but his system tells him that he is unable to do so because of the low level of light in the area. That's when he remembers the bag he got, so after pouring a little mana into it, it generates enough light for him to see again. However, as he is walking around, he stumbles across a human skeleton on the ground, and whatever killed the skeleton is still in the ruins, so Mimori is on edge now. He ends up tripping over some rocks, and it's a good thing he did because that allowed him to narrowly evade a sneak attack from a terrifying monster. He has no time to think or worry about where he's running to because if he stops for even a moment, he will be killed. As he continues to run, Mimori ends up tripping over a rock, and as the monster closes in on him, the emotion he is feeling isn't fear, but rather frustration. Frustration at the fact that he was abandoned by all those jerks and is doomed to die because of it. He has no weapons to fight back with, and no useful skills to use since his abnormal status effects are apparently unlikely to work. However, that doesn't mean he's not going to try and use whatever he can to survive, so Mimori casts Paralyze on the monster, and to his astonishment, it actually works. He doesn't want to stick around to figure out why though, so he runs away again. As he does this, he thinks to himself that the paralysis must have been a one-time fluke since Vicious said abnormal status effects have a low success rate. But in his haste to escape, Miyamori ends up running into another monster which looks like a cross between a chicken and a roach. Whatever it is going to kill him if he doesn't do something quickly, so Miyamori raises his hand and casts Paralyze again, fully expecting it to fail, but miraculously, it works again. Once could be a fluke, but 2 times in a row means his effect's success rate is way higher than what the goddess had claimed. It's possible that Miyamori's status effects are different from the weak ones that are native to this world, but even if he can defend himself with his spells, it will do him no good if he ends up running out of mana to use it. He only has 1 mana point left, so he uses it to cast poison on the monster, and once he does this, the monster begins to slowly die. In addition to having a high success rate, Miyamori's spells also have a really long duration, so he can just sit back and wait for the monster to die. He officially has 0 mana points left, so he doesn't know what will happen if he tries to use his status effects again. However, he doesn't get much time to recover as the first monster has caught up to him. The paralysis effect he cast earlier must have worn off, but even if he has no mana left, no one will come to save him, so Miyamori is prepared to fight for his survival. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.